a 100% chance of a laugh thunderstorm. Four men with different viewpoints take a movie, show, or documentary and review it uncensored, unfiltered, uncompromised, with no holds barred. Join BS3, Wilkes, King Dog, and H-Rap B as they take on Hollywood their own way. BS3 Network proudly presents The Forecast, where H-Rap B always predicts,
if I owe you something, I ain't got it. And if you need it, get it from God.
live every Monday at 8:30 p.m. Central. Check your local listings for your viewing and listening pleasure.
Bring back that beat. It ain't no beat, but I think we still got it saved, don't you? We can't play it now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He likes. Shout out to Golden Knight Creation. I've been knocking with this one. He likes.
Right on.
It sound like this is the 300 could have used this right before he kicked him his head.
Right. Right when he kicked him, that beat kick in.
I was gonna say Gladiator, but okay, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
Gladiator too.
Yeah, either one.
Yeah, either one.
Yeah, matter of fact, when I was requesting this beat, because I was kind of telling him what I wanted, you know, and I was telling him about some of the horns and some of that stuff. He goes, "Daddy, you asking for a composition, not a beat, you know." And I'm like, "You composing, hell."
Yeah.
Make it happen. Oh, wait,
Make it happen, boy.
Let me set this thing right. Right quick.
Yeah.
Let me set this thing right. Just,
What we got going on?
well, it's not letting me do it. There we go.
There we go.
There we go. Put me in the basement, shit. I ain't got the food down here. I don't like sitting in the penthouse.
The bottom.
H-Rap. That's H-Rap seat right there.
Yeah, man. Moving on up.
All right. Welcome to The Forecast, where we review movies, films, documentaries a completely different way for different perspectives. Tonight, man, we got a good one. Bob Marley, One Love.
Yeah.
I'm very interested to hear everybody's opinion.
Lucky just to have just one. Oh, that's Houdini.
Not that one.
Wait a minute.
That's Houdini. My bad. I watched the wrong damn show.
Houdini, where are we now? Houdini on Unsung. They probably been.
Watch that Unsung, man. Come on.
Yeah.
That was a good album that One Love was on. Houdini put out.
TV One, man.
They had about 3 or 4 hits, didn't they? H-Rap on that particular album where One Love was on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
they had One Love, Friends, and Big Mouth.
There you go.
Okay, you should do a hip hop podcast. I think you already did that.
I think you did that already.
Wow. Thank you for following me. Thank you for following my life. Right, H-Rap?
I've never done a hip hop podcast.
All right, Bob Marley, One Love, as we review that tonight. Very interested to hear everybody's opinion. It's got very mixed reviews. So this is what we do. We give our opinions, we give our thoughts, and that's what we're gonna do tonight. It's available on Paramount. Also, you can watch it on YouTube. If you're not aware, you can rent movies on YouTube. So that is the avenue to watch movies if you don't have some of the streaming platforms. It's been out for a little while, so. But let's go around the room. Wilkes, how you doing tonight?
Pretty good. Doing all right. Ready to review this one. I think it'll be a good one.
Definitely. Hopefully it's not shorter than last week. That was a record-setting record-setting time frame. All right, Doc, how you doing? Doing double duty tonight?
I am fantastic. I am doing double duty. Queen 3 and King were guest hosts on the Man Talk Mondays podcast, talking about being unequally yoked. So I am got the vocals warmed up and ready to go.
Yeah.
Turn me up in the headphones.
Sound like Luther down there.
Well, which Luther though? Skinny Luther?
Oh, Fat Luther. I don't mess with skinny.
Fat Luther.
Fat Luther.
Yeah, Fat Luther.
You know, the kind of Kentucky Fried Chicken eating Luther. Yeah.
Those skinny hoes.
Yeah, Jerry Curl Luther. Yeah.
Not the Dick Gregory Luther.
All the drip.
Hey, Trap, what's going on?
man.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm Kentucky Fried Chicken eating me.
Right.
I'm church stick.
Now on my cheat day yesterday, I got me some Popeyes. Look at here, son.
Man.
After the first wing, I was like, "This what I'm talking about."
Did you put that helmet on like Jerry Rice and put the wing in there and put the wing with the helmet on?
Yeah, I always put a helmet on. I ain't having no more kids.
Hey man, chill out, man. Roll the next one, man. Roll the next. Ain't talking about me, man. Next.
Oh, okay.
Come on, man. You talking about me, man?
All right, man. So initial thoughts. Bob Marley, One Love. A-Trap, I'm gonna come to you first. Initial thoughts on this biographical.
Well, y'all know how I feel about biopics.
Yeah.
Well, this was a very solid movie. I mean, I enjoyed it. It was good to get some information out there that most people didn't know. And what I like about, even though I don't like the concept of biopics, what I do like about biopics is if it is done well, it hopefully will induce you to look into things more. I appreciate this one, but I do understand why people had issue with it.
Yeah. All right, Doc.
Plot first or my thoughts first?
Plot first.
All right. Jamaican singer-songwriter Bob Marley. One Love is a 2024 American biographical drama musical film based on the life of reggae singer and songwriter Bob Marley, played by Kingsley Ben-Adir, from his rise to fame in the mid-1970s up until his death in 1981. Bob Marley overcomes adversity to become the most famous reggae musician in the world. The film is directed by Reynaldo Marcus Green, who co-wrote the screenplay with Terrence Winter, Frankie Flowers, and Zach Balin. It also stars Lashana Lynch as Rita Marley and James Norton as Chris Blackwell. The film premiered at the Carib 5 in Kingston, Jamaica on January 23rd, 2024, which is, I think, is super dope. And was released in the United States by Paramount Pictures on February 4th, 2024. It received mixed reviews from critics and grossed $179 million worldwide on a budget of $77 million. It was produced by Ziggy Marley, Rita Marley, Cedella Marley, Jeremy Kleiner, Dee Dee Gardner, Robert Title, and Tuff Gong. Again, just one cast individual. Again, the gentleman who played Bob Marley, Kingsley Ben-Adir. He also starred, here's another full circle moment for the forecast. He starred as Malcolm X in the Amazon Studios film One Night in Miami in 2020. So again, that's our very first review, even before we were the forecast. So I think just full circle for him to be in another film. For me, again, Bob Marley, who doesn't know who Bob Marley is, right? But to A-Trap's point, it made me watch a 2-hour documentary about him right after the film.
Yep.
This is the first movie that I've watched twice back to back. Okay,
Really?
so I'd already watched it when the review came up about 2 weeks before, and I with no reservations watched it again. That's how much I liked it, and got more out of it. So very few films make me want to dig. This made me want to dig a little bit more. And what I liked about the beginning of it is, this is a musical film as they described it. The first 5 or 6 songs that they play in the movie and the soundtrack are all on my pool playlist. One of my pool playlists. I have a kind of a beachy vibe pool playlist, and it's full of Bob Marley and Skip Marley and Peter Tosh, who was in the Wailers, and a couple other guys who went solo. And I made some jams. So and it turned me on to a couple of new songs too. So yeah, I'm with this one. Can't wait to dig into it.
All right. Wilkes.
I really enjoyed this. I mean, it took me back to when my father would play Burning Spear and The Scientists, definitely the Wailers, Bob Marley and the Wailers. I realized that I haven't really watched the documentary on Bob Marley. I just kind of heard things here and there and read things. So I definitely want to watch a documentary on him, and maybe even some interviews, which I'm sure on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I really did enjoy it. I felt like at first I made the mistake of thinking this was going to give me that documentary feel, but I realized that it was more centered around the important albums that he was putting out during that time of, you know, getting their independence from Great Britain and things like that. So I really did enjoy this. I definitely will probably watch it again just to kind of absorb something if I missed it. But to Doc's point, definitely will find a documentary or something like that to kind of
there's one on Prime called Marley, and the reason why I went on and started watching it because it popped up right after this movie was over. It popped right up and says, you know, Marley. So I'm like, let's go.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, definitely will do that. So, and then actually seeing the Wailers at a festival years ago in Richardson. It was an outdoor festival there, so that was pretty slick to see that. So I enjoyed that.
And I think this is a good point for you to call them out of the Wailers, because again, it was Bob Marley and the Wailers, and how they got their name is some information that I did not know before this film, and that is because people who came from the jungle of Trenchtown or Kingston, right in that area, they're like, we were born crying out, we born out of our mother's womb crying, and we still crying, we wailing, we were born wailing, and we still wailing. So that's why they were the Wailers, because it was so much desolation and poverty and struggle. That's why they're the Wailers, you know. So I thought that was, you know, just fantastic.
Yeah, and I've seen the documentary. So for me, I thought it was going to give me more of a documentary feel, and it was really a kind of a long music video. I mean, in between it had pieces of information, but it was like the music that it played, I think was the overarching theme of the whole entire film, instead of it being like he did this and he did this, and it sort of being like a chronological thing of his life. I think it was just a short stance of his you know, major music he came out with. So that's what I kind of got from it. But that documentary is great. It really dives into his entire life, about his wife, about his kids, and all of that. So
wifey actually watched this with me as well, and she made her start digging. She on Google. Finding out that he's got 7 kids. While he was married to Rita.
He was getting it in. Bang, 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 bang. He was getting it in.
Don't tell nobody.
Don't tell nobody. But I agree with A-Trap. I immediately thought about A-Trap. When that was over and the credits started rolling, I was like, man, this missed a lot. But I think when we did Shirley was just about a specific time in her life. And this was
Shirley
really
from What's Happening? Shirley from What's Happening?
Nah, man. Nah.
Man.
But I think it was just about a kind of a short stint about his life, a snippet of him to like you said, dog, make you research him. So maybe that was the goal, to get people to find out more about him, and instead of giving them all of it, you know. But his kids were executive producers on it. So because I was more interested to see, was Rita Marley on board? Was his kids on board? It sounds like the 2 kids, obviously, that executive produced it were, but one of the sons didn't get.
Yeah, she was a producer.
Yeah, one of the sons felt like he could have acted as his dad, but he was like, they never reached out to me. So, you know, there might have been a little bit of, could have been possibly some division there. But let's see, we got Knox in the building. Thank you for tuning in.
So to mention that, because I thought the guy who played the young adult Bob Marley, he looked like, he really looked like Bob Marley back when he was younger.
Yeah.
So I had to look and say, man, was that dude, is he a Marley? You know, I had to go look to see if he was a Marley. He wasn't, but he looked pretty doggone close to
pretty close.
Bob Marley, you know.
Pretty close.
That guy is Quan Dejai Enriquez is who played the young adult Bob Marley. Quan Dejai Enriquez.
And we got your movie on the list, Theodore. So that'll be coming up next in the next couple of weeks. And we got Chef Jeff in the building. Thank you for tuning in. He said, "What's up, fellas? We got all 4 this week. Yeah, man. It's 2 weeks in a row. Knock on wood. Knock on the walls.
Yeah.
But yeah, we all in the building. Make sure to check out this dope cooking show tomorrow at 5:30 on BS3 Network.
Right.
Knox is also doing a show. I'm loving the content with him and Chief Rocker on StreamYard now. So good to see you guys.
Bishop.
Bishop Dr. Brian. Yeah.
There you go, Anthony.
Brian D. Williams.
Yeah.
That definitely sounds like a pastor name. That's that pastor name that passed the bucket, twice.
Yeah,
you ain't got enough. You
My
can pass
church.
the bucket around one more time.
No,
don't leave. Don't leave.
Don't leave just yet.
You're right.
Benediction.
Right.
That's
right. Exactly.
Right.
All right. So 1976, Jamaica was separating from Great Britain, and that was kind of the another of the themes of this, and that's where I think probably some of Bob Marley's biggest hits came in during that particular time and that turmoil and the things that was going on. And I looked it up, and it was filmed in Jamaica, so that's I think a positive point. Sometimes you got these films and it's about Jamaica, but it's filmed in Florida or something like that. So they kept it. I think they kept it, the best that they could. And in total, the production employed over 2,000 Jamaicans, including more than 400 cast and crew members and 1,800 background actors. So, I mean, I think they did the best to include the actual people that were involved. So, the point I'm going to get to now, and I'll go to you guys. So, like artists that we see, when it's political conflict, sometimes, or any type of conflict, or any type of big issue, sometimes they move away from it. But this was Bob Marley's entire, I think, goal and focus was about people. So, A-Trap, I'll come to you. Kind of, as the film starts going through and it's talking about his feelings and how he sees everything that was going on.
I just think it was a sign of the times. You're looking at situations where this is what I'm uber critical about in the world of music today. This is the first time generation of musicians that don't address the issues of the day. In the 80s we did, in the 90s we did it, the 80s we did it. We did no drugs,
Illinois,
the anti-HIV. 70s was I don't know. I was between age 0 and 10, so I don't really know what it was. But I knew, when you listen to the OJs, when you listen to Curtis Mayfield, when you listen to Marvin Gaye and Stevie Wonder, you hear sign of, the issue. So this just is in lockstep of conscious people voicing their opinions through their art, whether it be written art, whether it be paintings, whether it be musicians. It's always been that way, and this is just further indictment of what the situation in the world today. So Bob is just like everybody else, man. I'm tired. I can't go out and fight everybody. I'm not gonna go pick up a gun, so I'm gonna express my discourse a discomfort via my art. So I think he was super dope for
it. Yeah.
And that's why he's beloved.
Yeah. And there wasn't any hate. There wasn't any, they weren't under oppression, but I hate these other people. It was more of a message of love and bringing people together instead of the opposite. But Wilkes, I know you talked about
one more thing. If you think about it, Bob couldn't come with hate. He's biracial.
True. And we'll get to that too, because that was a major part of this film and kind of his unrest or his issues that he had. So yeah, go ahead, Wilkes.
No, sorry, you were saying, but I didn't catch what's the segue into that?
Yeah, basically, how he used his music to towards the political issues and the issues that were going on in his.
Yeah, so I felt like, and I think that's what kind of came to me as I was watching this, because I was expecting, well, that was my fault, expecting the documentary aspect, but as I kept seeing from song to song, I think it was really just about, hey, the people want to hear from you, the voice. We need this voice. We need this leadership. We need your lyrics. And of course, I'll share my final thoughts at the end, because I have something that actually stood out to me at the end of this movie, and it kind of came full circle. But yeah, I feel like, and I think he realized the moment. I think he championed the people. I think he stepped into the moment. I think he realized that growing older. I don't know if he knew it right away. Maybe he did. But I think he knew that was the direction of, hey, I want to write music. But I think maybe he also started learning that, you know what, I'm going to try to liberate the people mentally. I'm going to try to liberate the people emotionally. It's love is going to heal this thing that we've got in front of us, and I'm being called to this thing. So I really felt like the movie was kind of moving in that direction, like those albums or those songs that were needed in that moment, and them getting their freedom from Great Britain, and at the time of people just kind of like, hey, coming into their own, and if I can be some kind of inspiration, and even to the young people. I mean, it was one of those things where I also noticed that he separated, like, hey, stay a young kid, let the adults fight this battle, but I want the kids to still embrace their youth and love and innocence. So I saw a lot of that in this movie, but I think that was kind of his calling there.
Yeah, I agree. Oh.
Yeah, I underestimated his political impact. Now, it's important to remember that he didn't want anything to do with politics. He thought all governments were illegal, basically,
Right.
and he was not into politics,
Hmm.
but his message had a great political impact,
Yeah.
and I think as he got older and more mature or whatever, he felt that impact and saw the difference it was making, like I said, I don't even know that when he started, he realized it was going to have the impact that it did, but he found himself, especially in the Rastafarian, which I didn't know was a religion, but that once he got into that and in depth of that played an impact as well. And, he became that dude that when he talked, you listened, that's why watching his interviews from back then are so engrossing, because he's saying something, and I think the advantage he has to people like us is because of his accent. You got to listen closely, to get it, and when you get it, you get it,
Right.
Yeah. I 100% agree with that. So he was doing a concert, and this was during everything that was going on. And before the concert, he ended up getting his house ended up getting ambushed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my question to you guys: who was the shooter? Do you remember him from a previous film? Because he's been in something else. I could get nobody.
I didn't catch it. Mm-mm.
He was Judas in the Book of Clarence.
Oh, really?
The same guy. Yeah. Surprisingly enough. Yeah.
I didn't catch that.
Shout out to Wesley Snipes.
What'd you say?
Shout out to Wesley Snipes refused to be the shooter at Malcolm X because he said, I ain't going down in history as the dude who shot Malcolm X.
Yeah.
And you call it. That's why I say shout out to Wesley Snipes because he called it. Like, that's what you're going to remember.
The dude you shot Bob Marley. Now, he didn't come back and apologize. So at least he came back and apologized, though. But so December 3rd, 1976, 2 days before the Smile Jamaica, a free concert organized by the Jamaican Prime Minister, an attempt to ease the tension. His house was ambushed. Bob Marley, Rita, and Don Taylor were wounded. Now, the fact that Rita was shot in the head, it seemed like point blank, and she survived. I mean, that's like nothing but God. And then the manager got shot 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's a testimony right there. The fact that they got shot that many times and they survived.
He must have been shooting in with a cap gun here because ain't nobody but they said, hey, I don't know how true this is, but they said her dreads saved her, from the bullet going in.
That makes sense.
Another inch, whatever.
That makes sense. Now, and how many of you guys would have went through with the concert after all that?
I mean, you got to put yourself in his shoes at the time, and because that's going to change your whole mindset. We're coming at that question from a first world problem mindset, we a first world mentality, so we can easily say now because we're comfortable in life. But back then, if you're uncomfortable in life,
Right.
you know, that's going to be pushing you
Right.
or pulling you to do something different. So I can see why he wouldn't back out of it, you know.
Yeah.
He was uncomfortable, you know, and that was he was doing what he was called to do, which is why he was so effective at doing it, you know.
Right.
Period.
All right, Wilkes, I'm gonna come to you. Do you feel like they gave enough of his early beginnings to do this film, or would you want more of that? Because I know his dad was white and his mom was, I believe, Jamaican, obviously. So, like, do you feel like they gave enough to be able to tell the story?
I guess in my opinion, I feel like, I mean, yeah, I don't know. To me, I think it was enough because, I mean, some people may say that's very important or significant, but I don't think that really takes away from what his message still was. I think he understood the moment. I got what they were doing by showing it repeatedly, and kind of like maybe it was him exercising that demon of not knowing or unknowing or what happened or why wasn't he really more present. But I think I think he realized also it just became bigger than him. I was fine with what they were doing. I don't think it was a part of him, and maybe it did drive him creating those albums and those songs and getting ready for those concerts and that pilgrimage and that political aspect or that political forecast.
Whoa. You know.
What's wrong? Oh. We got a Tom Jones.
Yeah.
Tom Jones in the house now?
Tom Jones in the building.
Yeah. So, but other than that, no, I got what they were doing there. I mean, I didn't mind what was happening. I think it was foreshadowing. Hey, if you go research this guy, this is what you're gonna get. You know, but I enjoyed that part. I got what they were doing there.
Yeah. Hey, Trump.
Well, you know, this is my original issue with the Muhammad Ali movie. You don't get enough background information. What led him to this? Who is he? How did he develop into this person? That's why I vehemently am in protest to bio pictures. I would like it to be a series because you will embrace the artist more. I mean, all these movies are made with some type of political edge to guide you, even documentaries to guide you to a specific way of life or way of thinking. But if you give us a lot of information and then in turn, as you, Dog, and Will said he's going to do, we'll look into it and you'll get the facts. So I have fallen back into the line of thinking I'm gonna accept it because until I start making movies, I'm gonna have to accept it. But yeah, I dug it.
Yeah. Dog.
Yeah, I thought they told enough because this is how it is to me now. We've watched enough of these biopics to have a good sample size, and to me, there's just not enough time, you know, in a feature length film, right? For them to. I know exactly. But there's not enough time in a feature length film to be able to get all of those details. So there is a way that you can give us enough of the detail to understand the significance of how it played a role. And I thought they did a good job of showing us how his early days impacted his latter days.
Yeah.
So in this particular film, I think they showed us enough of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Big Illinois says this is A-Trap's boy right here. I was waiting for Marley to sing "Kill the White People," but by my record first, then I realized I was a Saturday Night Live skit. Yeah.
Whoops.
And so, what was the part about the fire? Maybe that's something I missed. So they kept showing when he did the concert. Obviously, he was thinking about the shooter. He was visioning that. He was visioning how his dad was like, "I'm not your father. You're not my son." But then the fire, it was like a forest fire.
Yeah, it's a
kept having
field,
a vision of.
More of a field, like a not a cotton field, a cornfield or something like that.
Yeah,
you know, is what it looked like.
Sugar cane.
Yeah, there you go, sugar cane. Yeah. So I couldn't make out what the significance of was that,
Yeah.
Mm.
whether he
Well,
was
well,
coming out of the fire or
I took it as the metaphor that was the flame that burned inside of him. That was his drive. Okay, I need to get to know my father. Then I don't get that, and then I'm driving to get to be the best. Because notice every plateau in his life, the flame returned. This is what's pushing me forward. So that's
yeah.
why.
Yeah, and at the end, he basically said he didn't get any peace, and he was like, "My whole life has been about giving people peace, but I couldn't get peace myself. So if I can't get peace myself, how can I give it to other people?"
Right. Yeah. True.
Wow.
So he ends up leaving 3 months later for London, and then they go into the Exodus album and jamming. I mean, like the music. Obviously, we know his music, but
Yeah.
to in this film, it was just it brought back like how great his music was, and I think maybe we hear it in commercials. If you have it on a playlist, you have it, but I think this probably got even more people's attention that didn't remember or haven't listened to it.
Mm.
I think that was a huge part. I think about this film was obviously the music aspect of it, but the Exodus album, which was during that time, I believe it was
78, 77.
it was 70. I think it was 77, maybe, but it was Time Magazine named it the greatest album of the 20th century.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
that
significant. Yeah,
that's huge.
Yeah.
That's
Of the
huge.
century.
And when you talk about Exodus, I mean, there's so many meanings to that. The word Exodus, exit, the Bible Exodus, and the way they explained it, the producer or the record label was like, I don't really get it, but they're not us. So you probably won't get it because you're not me and you're not what I've experienced. But just talk about that album Exodus, Doc.
yeah. Because that was at the time he was over in London, and he was in exile, as they called it. It was after their attempt at the benefit concert and things of that nature. And it was, of course, a lot of civil unrest. Jamaica was on the brink of a civil war. He sent his wife to go live with, I can't remember if it was his mom or I can't remember.
It was his mom, yeah.
Maybe his mom in Delaware. So what I ended up finding out by watching this is where the biopic was a little off and took some creative liberties, is that before he went to London, he actually did go to Delaware himself, Wilmington, Delaware himself, and lived in America for a little while, went back to Jamaica, then went to London. So, but Exodus, again, one of the things that struck him and why he came up with the name Exodus, there was a movie out at this time. Now I can't remember. I don't know what movie it was, but there was this big sweeping soundtrack that he heard one of his band members playing downstairs, and he came to the top of the stairs. And he goes, "What's that you're listening to?" And he goes, "The soundtrack for this movie Exodus." That was when Rita was coming to visit. Came to visit him in London, and he came back and he was like, I wonder about Exodus being the name of this soundtrack, but he wanted it to be different. He wanted it to be different than the music he had been dropping before. He wanted a different sound, and he wanted to be more mystic and whatnot. And if you remember the artist that rendered the album cover, the first album cover was more commercial. It was what they usually do, and he like, now go reimagine this. And then he came back with Simplicity, and they talked about how it was powerful in its simplicity, and whatnot. Now, the only thing I don't know about this Exodus album was this dude wasn't Bootsy Collins, was it? This guitar player that he had come, because that showed who I thought he was when I first saw him. I'm like, is this young Bootsy or somebody he got?
Yeah.
His name was I think his name was Jimmy. So I was thinking, was it Jimi Hendrix? But I don't think that was him. I don't look.
No, because they didn't in the the cast. They never did pull him up as I didn't see any of those recognizable names, so I don't know exactly who he was.
Yeah. But he wasn't. I don't think he was on the album. Maybe he was just like playing some of his music for him.
Yeah,
what it seemed like. Or maybe they were thinking of putting him on the album, but I don't know. That was I think that was the interesting part that I don't know how that connected.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe he was just helping him out.
Yeah, because he definitely had some. He definitely leaned on him for some input on the album. So,
H-Rap, you on mute?
Mute.
Oh yeah, my camera died.
You see your camera died?
Jimi Hendrix was doing his own thing with Sly Stone at this point, and Bootsy Collins was just joining James Brown when Bob was coming to prominence. So I don't think it was that.
Okay. Oh yeah, might have just been
random.
We can hear you, but you got some lag.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's trying to catch up. Well, I'm gonna close out and come back.
Okay.
Yeah, but he talked about one of the things that he made a statement. He goes about reggae music. He goes, reggae music feeds a revolution that no man can stop. So he was definitely very purposeful about what he wanted this music to do.
Yeah.
And this dude, the Bible meant a lot to him, and Rastafari, and the religion and the wisdom he got from that dude. And who was still alive at the release of this film. That dude's still alive, and looks very similar to the guy who played him, in the movie. Hell, and may very well be him. I don't know, but the dude was just such a reader. He made me feel bad about how much I don't read. He read so much, and I know that had to contribute to the depth of his thought. And just for the record, I thought Kingsley Ben-Adir did a fantastic job playing it, man. Now this is a dude who done played Malcolm X and Bob Marley, and he won an award for playing. He won the Gotham Independent Film Award for breakthrough performer in the role he played in One Night in Miami playing Malcolm X. So I mean, again, I think he did a fantastic job at playing this role. I don't know, the dude pulled out the Jamaican accent, their cadence.
One thing I found was interesting is that he actually played. So in the live performances, that was him. He learned how to. That was the actor. He performed the songs on set during the shooting. Learned how to play a guitar, but the actual songs that they played, that was Bob Marley, but the performances and stuff was him. So
what's that term? Is it a method actor? I guess he's a method
possibly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that was that was Chadwick Boseman for a minute, because he did James Brown, he did Jackie Robinson. I think he did a third. Maybe that wasn't him. Somebody did a Thurgood Marshall type film.
That was him.
That was him too.
I didn't watch that movie yet. I haven't watched that movie.
Yeah, I haven't either. That may be a good one to
And I wonder, if the reason, they called him Skip or Skipper, which basically means leader or boss or whatever.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's why he named his son Skip, when his son Skip Marley,
Could
probably.
Be. Yeah, probably.
And they really showed the kids just a couple times. So I mean, obviously that wasn't the.
They showed Steven and Ziggy early,
right?
But the rest of them they didn't show very much of,
Yeah.
And probably shit, you got so many. You think he had like 5 with Rita, 4 or 5 with Rita, and then 7 on top of that, during that marriage. So shit, the movie would have been about the kids. Hell.
Right. All right. I think one of the things I enjoyed the most was his passion for soccer.
Yeah.
Like he was, he loved it. It was like mute. It was like music to the studio. Read. Yeah. It seemed like obviously he would take his kids where they need to go, and soccer. It was like those 4 things is what you've seen that he did.
Enjoy.
So I felt like that was a cool aspect of it.
And just the Jamaica aspect for me, one of the things that I noticed is that places with such beauty have such trials, tribulation, and tragedy. The U.S. Virgin Islands is one of those places for me. The community there, the people there, are in such desolation and so poor and barely surviving, and without the tourist economy, they probably wouldn't be making it as much as they do. But these are such beautiful coastline places that are just magnificent, but us ugly Americans go over there and enjoy it, and take advantage of it, and et cetera, and then lead them to their own devices. Part of us say, man, how lucky you are to live in such an environment. But is it really, when you still are just scraping by to get meals, so that's just one of the things that struck me, is that just places with such beauty has such trials, tribulation, and tragedy.
I'm sure I guess colonizing has probably hurt them.
Oh, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. Yeah.
You've come to kill, seek, and destroy, and you've left me in this dissolute situation. So.
Right. Let's get to a couple comments. Big Illinois says, I wonder if there will be a director's cut. Seems a lot was left out. I don't think so, but there is a documentary that's out there. You said it's on Amazon? I think somebody.
Yeah, same network. Yeah. Kyle Marley. Just Kyle Marley.
There's a documentary that's out there. I would definitely suggest checking that out, because that'll probably give you that that information that you need. I would definitely suggest checking that out, because that'll probably
I
give
think
you
we're hearing the feedback from A-Draft, because it didn't start till he got out.
I would definitely suggest you got some feedback.
Yeah, I muted him and it went away.
Okay.
No, I was listening as I rebooted. I needed it was a software update.
Oh, okay. Also, we got Cedric Trotter. Thank you for tuning in.
Richard, remember
appreciate you tuning in. Definitely appreciate that. All right, so Simmer Down was their first hit, which that was even, I think that was when they did kind of a flashback, and they went to the studio, and the guy was like, yeah, this is the Wailers. And he was like, man, I ain't got no time for that. Who is this? And so I guess he allowed him to come in or something. And they end up singing. He was like, nah, I don't want to hear none of this. And then when they did the Simmer Down, it was like, okay, that's a hit.
Yeah.
And that was kind of
what I liked about it is the dude in the engineer's booth, at first he was like, nah, man, they ain't ready, whatever. And then they started singing Simmer Down, and he was up on one knee up in there like, get yeah, I love that. That was one of my favorite scenes of the movie. He was on one leg up there and had the other one in the air, standing on the windowsill.
Yeah, man, but it's always that one hit that somebody hears that takes you to that next level. Yeah. But to Doc's point, real quick, I was gonna mention, if you think a lot of the most successful artists, they have a backstory of pain, of abandonment, and that's he had the same thing. I mean, he dealt with it growing up. Seemed like he didn't really have that stable of a two-parent household, and obviously growing up where he grew up and where he stayed, it was a lot of civil unrest. So that brings the best.
Yeah, but his mom came across as a very strong woman. I mean, one of the she called him Nestor. So the Rastafarian leader, when he told him that, he's like, what's your name? And he goes, well, they call me Nestor. And he goes, the messenger. So he immediately knew that his name meant something, but they also called him Yellow Boy, that's part of the whole teasing that they did with him, for being, half white, basically, so that was part of his deal. Like, he didn't fit in with the blacks, he didn't fit in with the whites, he was caught in the middle,
Yeah. And we agree with you, Cedric. That's the politics of music. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely. So they continue to get bigger and bigger. They're going overseas, Germany. They're just traveling everywhere, and I think that was
Belgium. And all these
right. And the people enjoyed it. They loved it. Man, we ain't seen Raider Kev, man. What's up, Raider Kev in the building?
What's up, man?
Really enjoyed this movie, but at the conclusion, I was thirsty for more. Yeah, that's definitely what it did. You got to watch the documentary. It's called Marley. So look that up. It's 2 hours. That'll give you everything that you are missing in this. So go check that out. His management taking cuts behind his back. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and his wife was the one that kind of ended up saying, like, yeah, you doing all this and you enjoying this. I'm over here. I'm taking care of the kids. He was like, you don't like it? Or he said you don't enjoy it? And that was a real brother moment right there. You don't like all this thing? Like, what's the problem, man?
Yeah. Well, what his problem was, that what kind of started that whole deal too, is that, you know, he had been messing around, right? They showed that even when he was on the phone with her. You know, you see this chick in the background waiting for him to get off the payphone, you know, or whatever. But when he sees this dude chatting her and the girls up, you know, he gets jealous, you know, and goes over there and like, who that is? And she's like, oh, nobody, basically, you know. And they say something. What's funny? You know, and then she's like, look, I'm going to get some fresh air. And then he did the typical brother thing. Where you going? Where you going?
Where you going?
Don't walk away from me.
And so it came out right there. That's when you understood that even though he was doing his thing, she was doing her thing too.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and he was like, you don't think I know about it? You know, so obviously you can't be Bob Marley's girl and not and step and somebody not gonna drop a dime on you.
Right.
And just imagine if it was social media and phones, man, he wouldn't have had zero privacy, especially if you got a manager that's making side deals. You know, you got the tabloids. Somebody say, hey, man, we could give you this much money. Tell us where he is. You know, what he doing. So, I mean, it was different times, but obviously the message still got to where it needed to be.
Yeah.
But
before he went to another thing that the documentary showed that the movie did not, is that he actually married Rita the day before he left to go to Wilmington, because again he went to Wilmington, Delaware before he went to London. He married her the day before he left Jamaica.
Yeah.
So that way they would be married while he was gone. You know.
Yeah. So how do you feel the woman that portrayed Rita Marley? How do y'all feel like she did? A-Trap, come to you first.
She did an excellent job. I mean, this is just another example of how powerful it is to be married, how powerful it is to have a strong woman behind you. And it was a bit of serendipity as I was watching this, because as y'all said, just look at the serendipity. The dude who played Malcolm X is playing Bob Marley. Malcolm X, at the end of his trail, him and Betty were having issues because Betty saw what the wrong was going on. Fast forward literally 10 years, Bob and his wife having the same issues about the same type of situation, people behind your back. And then this is the dude who actually played Malcolm X in the movie. So it's a hell of a, and then again, as Dog brought up at the top of the show, this is the dude that started the forecast. So it was a lot of symmetry going on in serendipity.
Yeah. Full circle.
Yeah, she did it. I think I'm with A-Trap. I think she did a fantastic job, you know, in the role. You know, I think she played the hell out of it.
Yeah. Whoops.
Yeah, I think her being a British actor and citizen, African American, but also Jamaica being occupied by Great Britain, and her doing the Jamaican accent, and again being British, it's full circle. I mean, it's all woven together. I think she did well. I think it was perfect. Yeah. I didn't see it at first because I was just like, well, she's a British actor, but then all of a sudden I'm like, well, wait a minute, Jamaica was occupied by, so it's perfect. It's underlining, you know, it's the proof is in the pudding, as they say. So yeah, no, I think she did well.
Yeah. And so LaShawn Lynch, she's been in quite a few Marvel movies. She was also in The Woman King, and so I mean, once you get in that Marvel universe,
also I thought for a minute they were going to make her the female James Bond. She's in the last James Bond movie.
Okay.
Money Penny.
Imagine if he never got sick. He was already big. How much bigger would he have gotten? I agree. I was thinking about that. You know, as this is one of those things. Obviously, you know the ending, but seeing his life, it gives you like a false sense of hope. Like, man, this guy was great. If he was still here, what would he have done? And I think he would have been even bigger. I mean, he would have collaborated. I think also he would have collaborated with more U.S. artists as well, because that was kind of his probably the next phase is of where he would have reached.
Yeah, another thing that the number one, only the good die young, right? That's the saying, and at 36, but he did a collab with Stevie. They did a concert together, which is what the documentary showed as well. And they asked him, hey, will you open for Stevie Wonder? And his people was like, Stevie Wonder should be opening for him. Right. So that's how big Bob Marley was at the time. But Bob Marley, when it got to him, he says, I got no problem with it. Let's do it.
Did Bob Marley ever make it to SNL? Did he ever? I don't know if he did the early SNL.
Not that I remember.
I don't think so.
But and the way he danced on stage, man, was just this, because so in Britain he had to play these punk. He had to play these punk bands. I mean, these punk clubs.
Yeah.
Which is why in that one scene you saw that guy walking behind him with the, mohawk straight up, white dude walking behind him with this green or purple mohawk or whatever, because those were the venues that he was having to play, But the way those venues were so big over at the time that was what the venues you needed to be playing. If you were anybody, those were the venues you should have been playing in anyway. But his people didn't like it, But the way he danced on stage, I think kind of fit in with that anyway, where it was almost that mosh pit kind of, just banging off of folks, just free, it's like it ain't even he really like he didn't probably dance the same way. He didn't do the same dance move ever, it was always different because it just went where your body went, or whatever, and one of the things that I noticed, I had no idea. I didn't give him credit for having a great voice before this. In terms of his singing voice. But after this and listening to some more of his music and listening to some of my stuff, man, this dude had a great singing voice, man. He really did.
Yeah, because you think of the early music, it was just it was kind of that old kind of singing on a corner type music. It really wasn't, I don't think it wasn't reggae at that point. They had
that's one of the reasons why they got their name, Bob Marley and the Wailers, because back then that's when all the groups were out, and they in the documentary they named all these American groups that's kind of the reason why they went that direction. And they even when like Simmer Down and all that stuff was out, they also put out albums where they were covering a lot of the songs from these groups over in the States, and redoing them in the Jamaican way,
And you think of George Clinton. I mean, George Clinton was buttoned up with a suit and a skinny tie and singing on the corner before Parliament. So I mean, everybody had that start. They had to give them their beginning.
Even when I on the way home, I was listening to a Bob Marley and the Wailers song. I can't remember the name of it now, but going into the 80s. Dub music had started on the rise, and I heard one of the Bob Marley. I was like, man, he's probably the father, which I could be wrong. I was like, he's probably also the father of dub music, because dub is different from reggae, even though it has reggae inspiration. But dub relied a lot on the steel drum and the over exaggeration of the synthesized and the bass. So I have to find that song, but I was like, man, they really kind of touched on a lot of different things, and then just dub music took off from there. So
yeah, and then reggaeton. I mean, it's obviously in the name. That was years later. I don't know when reggaeton.
Still,
it's
and that he really did this during the Exodus, but that one drop with the drums, man, that is stupid, man. That one drop with reggae, man, it is so stupid. It ain't even funny.
It's highly.
I mean, it's stupid, But they were talking about how, so it was the recording equipment, the reason why reggae kind of got that little beat to it because it was a return. It was almost like a reverb.
Reverb.
So whenever they hit this note or the sound, it come right back to them. They didn't know it was because of the equipment, you know, like they had this equipment that was new to them and they didn't really know. So they say the reggae sound is actually an accidental sound. You know, they just didn't understand the equipment that they had.
Yeah.
You know? And so it was causing these things to happen and they just went with the shit, you know.
Hey, it's working.
Right. What's up, James Montgomery? So what's up, fellas? Really good movie right here. Appreciate you coming through. Co-host of the Ear Hustling podcast. So thank you for stopping through. All right. So so he's playing soccer one day, ends up getting basically tripped or whatever ended up happening, and he ends up injuring his foot. So the story was that the cancer came from that, but looking it up, it was already there, and they said it in this, but it was already there. But that just what caused someone to look at it and to see that that's what it was.
Yeah. In the documentary, they dogged him about that too, because they were like, "This melanoma, this is a white man's cancer. This didn't come from us."
Right.
That's what they said about it, man.
They couldn't believe it. Like,
they was brutally honest in there, man. It wasn't sugarcoating that in that documentary for sure.
Yeah, I haven't watched it, but I've heard stories about. I've heard people mentioning that because they were like pushing him to go get it looked. Because it's like, this isn't from us. I've heard that before, like just from like other band members or artists. But I'd have to watch that documentary.
Yeah, and the musicians in his band were a lot more powerful personalities than this movie.
Yeah.
I bet.
Much more powerful personalities. And when they first started, they said there was a little underlying tension in the group because nobody wanted to become a yes man for the other,
Right. Yeah.
And then ultimately, even though Bob ended up ascending and being what he was, like your Peter Toshes of the world, like Peter Tosh, man, got this song called "I Am That I Am." Listen to that and tell me you don't see all the spirituality in that song, man. I mean, I'm talking.
Amber Alert.
Yeah. But Peter Tosh, "I Am That I Am."
I'm pretty sure I have that in my playlist. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, man. It's such a. I mean, look at him.
And he left the group, right? Was it Peter or
him? Is it Bunny? What was the guy's name?
Maybe him and Bunny.
One of the Wailers.
Because they mentioned it. They said somebody left the group.
Yeah, she said Peter and Bunny. Yeah. Did he call him Bunny? What was the guy's name? Bunny
Wailer.
Yeah. And Peter. Yeah. I'd like. Did they mention that in the documentary? I'd like to know more why he left, but I don't know if they mentioned that in the documentary.
Yeah, just got into it. Different directions. Like one of them. Okay, so where they had him playing at some of these clubs. So from a Rastafarian religious standpoint, he was like, we shouldn't be playing at these places. Where XYZ is going on. And so one of them just said, "Well, I'm out." And they filled in with him with somebody else. And so it just and he never came back. So it was basically a protest saying, okay, what we stand for, we shouldn't be playing in these kind of places.
You're getting too commercial.
Yeah.
And his wife was saying that, like, man, we doing stuff that we didn't agree to of us doing.
Yeah, like doing those parties, and she didn't like the Hollywood aspect of it, even though they were in London. It was very Hollywood. She didn't like it.
Right. Hey, Trap, you gotta add something?
Yeah, I mean, but that's what led to this. Believe it or not, man, as radical as his lyrics are, radical as behavior was, he is the softer touch. He would be the MLK of the him and Peter Tosh combination. So it a lot of scuttlebutt and talk around a campfire is they uplifted Bob because Bob was the soft touch, and Peter Tosh didn't like that, and that's hence the separation.
Yeah, and there was a song he was writing that was more of a love song, and he was talking to his wife, and his wife was like, "Stop! Don't stop making that type of music." So I think his initial was love. It was like a message in it, but it was still love. And maybe Peter Tosh was more of a Malcolm X type.
Yeah, if you want to get a feel of this, really, oh, you want to watch this documentary? It's 1,000,000 years old, and it resurfaced about 10 years ago. It's from a James Baldwin book called "I'm Not Your Negro." It'll give you a better grasp of what was going on.
Yeah.
And did y'all catch the Marcus Garvey reference that they made in the?
A lot of them.
Yeah.
There was even a book he was reading that they showed.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he was tied into not just what was going on in Jamaica, but I think what was like spiritually what was going on, and his understanding of the Bible, I felt like was a huge part of this, even in his music, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what that was. What's up, Pastor Dodd? He said, the storm is on the way. So that's what that
Yeah,
that's what that alarm was going on for.
backstroking in a minute.
Hey man, be safe, man. Be safe.
No, man, don't do it, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's with the whole Rastafarian movement, it goes back to Ethiopia and Haile Selassie. He's gigantic in Jamaica. He actually came to Jamaica. That's why it's a gigantic spiritual situation, and it also ties into one of the issues with America today. I mean, this is an epic situation when you look at it in its totality. You got the people for Rastafarian roots. You got Marcus Garvey, who ties right into that because Marcus is from there. Then you got they say we don't look at the Bible the way it should be referenced. They say you should look at the additional 80. 80. We look at 66 books. It's supposed to be 88. There's a lot of things that's going on. So these are the issues that tore them apart. And then, like, I like what Wilkes brought about the other factions of music. And again, this is just underground conversation. This is why the music programs were removed from urban schools throughout the nation, because if you look at us historically, music is how we've connected since the word go. We've connected. You use those drums to communicate, and when you remove those programs throughout in the urban areas throughout the United States of America, you slow down that movement. Go. What's the music you spoke about, Wilkes? That all that is intertwined. So, and then when you get a mild political conversation between a Bob Marley and a mild conversation with Stevie Wonder, you create an uprising that is unstoppable. And then
what was it? Hotter Than July?
Hotter Than July is a monster. A monster.
That is like, woo, like right
Master
on the line.
Wilkes, Master Blaster.
Yeah, Master Blaster. Oh gosh, yeah, man.
And that's how people express themselves, is through music. Some people their outlet is different things, but that music, and this was definitely Bob Marley's outlet. I mean, if he didn't have music, I'm assuming he probably would have played soccer. But music was, music was his way of expressing himself.
Yeah. He seemed to be pretty good at it. Seemed to be a pretty good athlete.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
so July 1977, he was diagnosed with malignant melanoma under the nail on his right big toe. Contrary to urban legend, the lesion was not primarily caused by an injury during a football match, but instead a symptom of the already existing cancer. So, and that hit him pretty hard, obviously. I mean, you got kids, you have a wife, you have music that you love, and he just loved living life. So one thing his wife said, which I felt like was powerful, is struggle is where your power comes from. And that goes into some of the artists that we all know and love that either are here or passed away. That's where they got their power from, and their music is where the struggle came and transformed into their music. Any thoughts on that?
I just want to say something real quick right here, which is it's going to tie into my final thought. But when I look at these cancers, which cancer happens to most any enabling body, But when you see it, definitely for people that have a message or that is being a type of pilgrimage, even the assassination of our leaders in the Black community, is this like a, if I can use this or make this term up, is this like a Moses-ism? Because supposedly Moses didn't make it to the promised land. Moses didn't get to see the promised land. But I mean, we just like with Martin Luther King, is like, I've made it to the mountaintop and I've got a chance to look over. But it was like, I may not get there with you, but at least I've started that kind of fuel in that direction. Is that kind of like what's happening here? I feel like maybe it's a Moses effect. You don't get to see the finished product, but I'll let you see the finished product and I'll give you the blueprint, but you run from it. You run with it after that once I've laid down the blueprint. Maybe that's just in my mind. What's that?
I was thinking the same thing. I was literally thinking the same thing. It's horrible how it's an insane coincidence how these people never get to the finish line. I've never seen a dream come to fruition with one of these outrageous people that have hundreds of millions of people following them and saying, "Hey, that's the way." And somehow, some way,
something happens.
Yes,
but it's like I've given you enough meat and manna to run with that. Giving you the blueprint, or the blueprint was delivered to me, and I hand you the baton, and you run with it. So I don't know, but that's just what I just kind of noticed. But that's just me.
Let's get to a couple comments. Pastor Dodd, now you know. Now you do know. Before the music, he was famous for doing the Temptation thing. Yeah, we did mention that. He was doing the doo-wop.
Yeah.
And Moses did see it, but couldn't go into the land. Yeah, and it was Joshua that ended up being the one that was.
Joshua kind of went the rest of the way.
But I mean, I may be a saying or something, but I mean, a lot of the people you get to talk about the dream, but you don't get to actually live the dream.
Yeah,
and we've seen that, times.
It's almost nightmarish.
Right.
I don't know. Just something I've just thought about. I just kind of wondered, like, is it still a Moses connection there? But I don't know.
Yeah, you pulled it out of my head. Well, that's what I was doing like this. I was like, right, you pulled it right out of my head. Like,
And like every time you get to that, and even with the Black Panther Party, I mean, you've got, it's just like you get to that point and it's like,
Right. And kind of going back to his dad, the gentleman that he ran into when he was at the around the campfire, I think that was more of his father figure, because I think he was kind of deciding if he wanted to go through with one of the tours he was getting ready to go on. He kind of went there for wisdom. So he had and it seemed like that was a good his inner circle or his wisdom that he needed. So even though he didn't have his dad, I think that was the guy, or group of guys that he went to.
Right.
Cedric said the music kept them going and together, because even after Bob passed away, they still kept singing, and to this day, they still celebrate his legacy.
Oh yeah, I mean, oh gosh,
I think you got to.
Yeah.
And even his son, his sons, I don't know how many of them are in music, but I know there's a few. Damian Marley ended up doing an album with Nas.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, if your legacy is left obviously through your kids, but also like a nation that he left a legacy. So there's a lot. Even though he didn't see it, he impacted probably so much than what he could even imagine.
Yeah, man, it did that, but to live that life and know, hey, man, it may not happen for you.
Yeah.
Right. Whew. Eesh.
Yeah. I guess that's just kind of like you said, and you know what? Didn't we just watch another movie that kind of quoted what she said? The messenger becomes the message.
Mm-hmm.
So we just watched something that repeated.
Big Cigar. I think that was.
It was the Big Cigar, wasn't it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
His dad. I think that maybe his dad was telling him.
That's exactly what his dad told.
Yeah. So it was just like you still carry. You've got to, even though you're not. And of course, to Kendrick Lamar's point, where he said, "I don't have to be in flesh to hug y'all." It's like that message is still going, and that was a Nipsey Hussle reference. So it's just like I don't have to physically be here to see it, but I know if that message keeps going, it's one of those things where it's like it's gonna sew in to everybody. It's gonna weave into the fabric of your mind and different endeavors. I believe, I guess.
And also Kendrick said, "Hey Drake, I heard you like him young." But
Yeah, gosh.
Well, hey, I heard that beat when you was saying that.
I just be in my head at random time. I just be walking around the house like, "Say Drake."
Hey,
he said, "Yo, fellas, I gotta run. I'm getting tornado sirens out here in Indiana. We'll take care.
Oh man,
thank you for stopping through.
Be safe, dog.
Safe out there.
Yeah.
Tornadoes.
Yeah, really. In Indiana, I wouldn't think that, but
last all week, man, all week. That storm that was down there with y'all. It's up here now.
Up to y'all.
Wow. Yeah, okay, because it was still hooking up that way. It was what they were showing there. Oh man.
Wow. All right. So 1978, he went back to Jamaica, went to his house, kind of had that flashback with the holes in the wall now I don't know if this was true or not, but the shooter came up to him or just walked into the house. It's like, "Hey, I'm seeking forgiveness." And I know, Doc, you talk about that forgiveness all the time. And he said, I don't hold a grudge. I mean, but you have to move forward and you got to be that change. So what do you think about that?
Yeah. It was basically, he was like, "You're looking for forgiveness. That's got to come from you too. You can't just get it from me. You got to forgive yourself," basically is what he was trying to tell him. But I think he was surprised the way they laid this out. He was even surprised by the warm welcome he got from Jamaica. It's like, again, he was in exile based on the violence and so I'm sure in the recesses of his mind, he probably thought, he probably didn't think necessarily that he was going to be as popular back home. He knew he was popular abroad, which is where he was, because he was getting all the love in London and Belgium and Africa and all these other places. But what another thing they underplayed was exactly how much he put into Zimbabwe in getting that concert done. They touched on it when they were saying, "And there's no infrastructure there," and he said, "Well, we'll build it." Well, he really did send out his own money. He was sending over equipment and stuff like that to be able to pull that off. And it ended up happening. I want to say that concert was the same day Zimbabwe got their independence, or Zimbabwe became Zimbabwe. But this cat, man, he was never worried about the money for himself, and I'm sure a lot of people have saw this interview where they asking him, were you rich? I think they played it at the end of this film.
Yes.
Were you rich? Did you have millions of dollars? He's like, "No." He goes, "Well, were you rich?" And he's like, "Well, what is rich? I'm rich in ways that you can't touch with money,
Right.
So, which is probably the reason why he got screwed, because he wasn't necessarily worried about the money, even though he was paying attention to Don Taylor, and like he come up and he goes, "Man, I got held up in such and such." He goes, "You sure you didn't get held up at the Gucci stuff?" Wasn't missing too much.
Yeah, and I think he
put the things on him too.
Yeah, he did. He said, "What did I tell you? Don't lie to me." Yeah, he basically beat him in the alley.
Yeah,
and I'm interested to know, was their relationship completely over with, or was he still? Did they talk about that in the documentary?
No, not that I picked up on.
Okay, all right. But he beat him, and they had to pull him off him and everything. 1981, he passed away at 36. 1978, April 22nd, and this was kind of at the end. He brought people together as a symbol of unity and peace for the Jamaican people. I felt like the footage at the end was great to definitely give you some footage of him, and I thought the dancing was definitely unique. I didn't think that was legit, but that is how he danced, and it showed it on stage. And
Oh
everything.
yeah, it was.
He said, "Man, you can't be cool with someone after." Yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah.
He beat him like he stole something, which he
Like
did.
that.
He was stealing money. He was taking side deals, you know. So yeah, you're right. You can be cool after that. I agree with you 100%.
Right on.
1980, Doc. He finally reached Africa. He performed to commemorate the end of the colonial run in Zimbabwe. So I don't know if it was on that day or what, but it was good timing for them and a good, celebration to have.
Yeah, the way they tell it for sure in the documentary was that it was on the same day, because they didn't really give a whole bunch of detail in the movie about the Africa situation, just that the label didn't want him to go necessarily because it was no infrastructure, just like the label didn't want him to release the Exodus. They wanted him to be more commercial with it, and it's like, man, we got to sell records, and then when the record goes platinum or whatever it went, they're like, you believe now,
Right.
It was like, man, great idea. We were thinking the same thing. We just didn't say it. Get out.
Right.
Which how many things are on the shelf that would have been fantastic that never saw the light of day because some record exec who thinks they know, but these artists sometimes have the pulse of the people because they are destined to be where they are,
exactly.
they are operating in a calling,
Right.
So you just, like I say, you just never know what's been shelved that's better,
True. I mean, and how many times artists have went to one label, they didn't like it. I mean, the Kanye story, you went to 4 different labels and they were like, nah, man, you a producer that rap. We don't want that.
Yeah. And on this Exodus thing, one of the things they said about Exodus is Exodus appearing less, but being more. And that's exactly what it turned out to be.
Right. And it was like, Bob, your face isn't on here. We can't sell this without your face on there. And at the top in the small lettering is Bob Marley and the Wailers, but Exodus was the big, and that was probably his biggest album, during that time. So
yeah, biggest of the 20th century.
Right. Facts. All right. Final thoughts and mic rating as we end the episode. Bob Marley, One Love. We're gonna go to A-Trap first.
I'm gonna give this a 4. It is heartwarming to see. This is a myriad of reasons, but it's heartwarming to see someone's story so radical. It's heartwarming to see someone who's so for his people, and it's extremely inspirational. It should be extremely inspirational to musicians. You got a chance to peak at an excellent musician and an even better man. So
yeah.
Now, did you start out as a 4 before this episode? Okay.
4 all the way through, 4 and 4.
All right. Wilkes.
I started as a 4. I mean, I knew what I was, even when I think I saw a trailer like in 2022, they showed a trailer and it was like, it's coming out a year later. So even when I saw it then, it was like, okay, well, that's going to be pretty awesome. And then I think it dropped in 2023 and then it released in 24. But I started as a 4. My final thoughts for it, though, I noticed like in the last 15 minutes as I'm watching it, and I mentioned this before that I would, in the Moses reference, and I'm just going to tie it in that I felt like it was just a scripture from, it's like just being about my Father's work. I think that's the biggest thing, that when Jesus, I'm about my Father's work. I just have to be about my Father's work. Mm-hmm. And I think Bob Marley realized I have to be about Jah's work. I have to be about my Father's work. I think he knew that, hey, it's not about me. And as he said, the message is going to continue long after me. Mm-hmm. I just have to be about the work. Yeah, they tried to kill me. They tried to shoot me down. But I have to be about that work. And I think that goes into today's atmosphere as well. You just have to be about the work that you're presented with and the calling that you're you're presented with. So yeah, I enjoyed it. 4 is my thing, and that just kind of resonated with me, just being about the work.
Yeah, yeah. CJ says a great movie, 5 out of 5. So all right, we appreciate that, CJ. Make sure to check out Plays by CJ, man. The channel is growing leaps and bounds, man. So make sure to go check that out. Don't play it at work. Turn the volume up.
Don't turn it up.
No, your manager gonna pull you in the office.
But if you do turn it up, make sure it's your last day.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Then turn it all the way up while you're walking out the door.
Yeah.
A-Trap had to run. The storm is heading in his area. So appreciate A-Trap tonight. All right, dog.
Yeah. First, I'll go over some of the rating services and what they gave as usual. IMDb 6.3 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes a lowly 44%.
Come on.
Metacritic a lowly 43%. Google a respectable 87%. Me, myself, and I gave it a 5. I started out as a 5 and I ended as a 5.
Wow.
Now I acknowledge that some of it is because it hit personal for me, with, I can't tell you how often I'm sitting around the pool listening, and the music was already speaking to me, and the fact that they used so much of it in the movie resonated with me, so and again, as I said at the beginning, this is probably the first movie that I done watch back to back, and was happy to do it, and then dug for a documentary afterwards, so understandably this one just has me, just a little bit somewhere different, and and maybe the artist in me, I'm not a singer by any stretch of the imagination, but the artist in me, the little writing I do, and the struggle for him, again, the struggle was the source of his power, so I appreciated every bit of it, and even though it may have left you wanting more, to me that's that sign of a good piece. I've always had that theory, leave them wanting more, and I thought this film did that. So again, it may be a bit high, but I got to stick with the 5 that I gave it, and looks like CJ saw it the same way.
Yeah. And so for me, I felt like the actor Ben-Adir, I felt like he did a good job. I felt like the obviously the actor doesn't have locks, so the locks is a little. Felt like they could have did better, but it's hard to do hair. I mean, I'm not gonna knock on, especially black hair. I'm not gonna knock on that too much, but I'm gonna give it a 3.5. I was at a 3.5. I'm gonna keep it at a 3.5. I felt like obviously it gave you just an overview. It gave you a light brush of Bob Marley. So some people that might have gave them the urge to dig deeper, and some people just might have been like, I'm just gonna leave it alone. I'm gonna watch this, or I'm not even gonna watch the whole thing. So I'm gonna leave it at a 3.5. I felt like it was good. I'm not gonna go to like 4 or 5, but I felt like it was solid. But it definitely gets you wanting to learn more about him, learn more about the kids, learn more about his life as a whole. So yeah, I'm gonna keep it right.
Well, that gives us an overall rating of a 4.
Okay, we will take it.
Alrighty.
He said had his looking like old boy dreads from 8 Mile.
Oh, yeah,
man. They had that dreads helmet, that locks helmet. They just put that hat on him. But yeah, Rita Marley did. I felt like she did great in that role. She said, and also there was an interview on the Daily Show where she went and just sat down with her and talked to her. And as soon as she came in, Rita Marley told, I think her daughter was like, her energy is right, or her energy is good. And she was like, well, I don't know, is that a good or is that bad or what, what? So she said she came in with a book full of questions, and she left the book in the car and just sat down and just talked to her like a grandma talking to her.
Love it. Right. She's shooting from the hip.
Yeah. And she gleaned, felt like she gleaned a lot, from her. So now the other actors, obviously they weren't well known. So some of the moments, the shooting moment, they It was kind of downplayed, but I think overall they went exactly with Jamaica and the actors that they had, the extras that they had in there.
Yeah.
So I felt like as a whole they did a good job. So,
yeah, I definitely watch it again, but I'm definitely gonna check out that documentary though.
Yeah. All right. So I'm assuming the end of the bench will be on tomorrow, normally at 6 p.m. Central. Make sure to check that out. The end of the bench media, and that's on YouTube. And then we got Queen and King tomorrow. What's coming up?
Yeah, tomorrow we have rejection, God's protection. Tomorrow, we will have a special guest host on the program. King 2.0, Andre Jones will be back with us. But again, rejection, God's protection. So sometimes we get rejected and we all butthurt about that rejection. But at the end of the day, it is actually God's protection. So we're going to kind of break that down a little bit and talk about some experiences and offer some insight as to how you should be able to look at rejection. So
I'll leave it there.
God's protection.
Awesome. All right, before we end this
PM Central Time.
Yep, on BS3 Network.
The return.
All right. So coming up in a couple of weeks, we talked about it last week, but the 5th annual BS3 Network Awards, September the 8th, 7 p.m. at the same location it was last year. You can RSVP. The link is on our Instagram page, or you can go to my personal account. It's there as well. We would love to see you there. There will be food, performances, and obviously awards being given out. So make sure if you were in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, or if you just want to come through, we'd love to see you at the award show coming up in September.
Yep.
All right, so we'll go ahead and close out. We don't have A-Trap. Normally A-Trap does the closeout, but appreciate you, D. Great, coming through. Make sure to check out his podcast as well, so on Facebook and on YouTube. Also, I see you've been popping in on Perspective and Is It Wednesday Yet? So I appreciate your support of the network and of the shows. We will not be on next week, but the plan is the week after that to do Tell Them You Love Me. It's I believe it's a documentary or a film, so get your head start. You can go ahead and start watching that now, and we will see you when we see. Peace.
2 and 2.
Maybe.